I bet you there's a lot of people that don't think of the simplicity of tricking their own mind. Like, really, everything that goes into your mentality and your potential as a human being goes towards your impulses as a human being and what you naturally react to and what you're able to artificially react to in different ways. And everything is about reaction, really, if you think about it. I mean, what's your reaction to the human race? What's your reaction to everything around you and different things that you see and stuff? And like, it's crazy because the internet showed us that there are a lot of different people out there that can have a diverse number of reactions. And it's broken away from what we typically know and understand. And it's such a crazy battlefield that it's such a crazy thing, cyberscape, whatever whatever you want to say is it's crazy out there. It's crazy in so many different ways. And so like how do you know that what you're thinking is even legitimate when everything is kind of implanted into your brain from music and TV and everything out there and even just like the way that people act even to sit here and just act like everything is implanted into my brain yeah, everything's subconsciously implanted into my brain. I have this almost set amount of reactions or distractions that I partake in, and everything's kind of predetermined. Like you're almost living in a predetermined life, which is kind of crazy to think about if you take the whole predetermined thing and apply it in a different way because it's like basically everything is predetermined. Like everything that you do in life already happened. If you think of it like that, it kind of did, but it didn't almost, which is kind of crazy to think about. So like everything that's going to happen is going to happen unless you do something different. But really, even if you do something different, you're still going to go down the same path of everything that happened. You kind of know what I mean? Like everything's going to happen the way it's going to happen in the end. But I guess that's the amazing thing about human beings is they can sit here and be like, yeah, this is going to happen, but I think this, and I think this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to invent this, and I'm going to be interested in this, and I'm going to be interested in this. And it's kind of weird to think about people as genetic mutations, like almost like your genetic strand of DNA almost was something that wasn't supposed to be, or it's almost an experimental process of the human genome. Is that even a real word? The human genome. The human dome. The human dome. The human dome. Wow, that sounds like something. The human dome. I don't know. I was just thinking of it as like a movie or something, or like a book. I think of everything as a book now because I write books, but yeah, man, if you just take a look at that, it's kind of crazy because it's like you know, it kind of like drives me nuts a little bit to think about like predetermined. But I think that's the amazing thing about us is we can say everything's predetermined, right? Let's change it. And I know I kind of just said that in a different way. I'm repeating myself in a new and interesting way, and thus over explaining myself because I'm so expressive and I'm so passionate about what I'm talking about. What is there even to be passionate about here? But what I'm trying to say is if you kind of think of everything that you're going to do in life as almost predetermined in your set of choices and your influences and almost there's only going to be one way it's going to happen and your power and your control is limited by your own capability as a person to use their brain power to be able to change it or to do something differently and gain that confidence or whatever you need to do to learn because that's what it's really life is that's all it really is just you are a thing that learns and does stuff. That's all it really are. So really, I mean, I think what a lot of people do is trick your brain, which is interesting if you think about it like this. Say you watch somebody and it's interesting, but it's almost an illusion in itself because it's just a person and they just have a voice and they just talk, but maybe they say something that almost connects to you and tells you that you aren't predetermined. Because I think a lot of people don't want to hear that, right? They don't want to hear they're predetermined. That's what I think a lot of people kind of seek in life or search for is like I don't want to be this same old thing. And I know a lot of people reach the conclusion like I'm a loser or I'm not very good at something and it's just never going to change. So everything's kind of predetermined when it comes to that particular thing. But I don't know, it's kind of crazy cuz like how can you trick your brain out of that process? And I don't know, like why would you ask that when it's like, well, I don't really think there is a way to trick your brain out of the process, which is kind of weird because maybe that's what some people are doing, though. Maybe some people trick their brain into thinking that they can do something that they can't do, and then eventually they're able to do it. But it doesn't always work with everyone. So I almost think that it's kind of a load of crap, but I also think that there is some significance in tricking. I think tricking your brain can come down to just us and the way that we think naturally and thinking in a different way to be able to get a different conclusion. So it's almost like your brain, like your stream of consciousness has to go in a different direction. And that's what it really is. If you think about it, everyone has it's all a stream of consciousness. So really just a stream of consciousness, as a person, the only reason why someone was able to accomplish something is because they had a different stream of consciousness and, steady frame of thought that they were able to do that particular thing. So that's all it really is. So I almost think people are tricking themselves to think that they have no stream of consciousness or their stream of consciousness is just so based around things that they're just so stupid and don't matter or like temporary feel good moments and that's all it's really worth. But as a human being it's like, well, maybe that's the big trick of the human brain is to think I should just do things this way and because it feels right or this is me or whatever. But that's what people think. They always think this is me, right? This is me. This is me. This is what I do and this is the things and eventually you just realize like, hey, people are crazy. I don't want to mess with them or like I can't fix them or I can't be responsible for them. I can't live their life for them, so you're just like, well, I'm me and I do my thing. But it almost is like a situation where you're almost just surrounded by idiots, almost in a way. I think a lot of people, if you're smart, you probably feel that way a lot, until you realize how smart you actually are. Um, but yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting thing to think about to think about because I think human beings do have the ability to kind of tap out of the predetermined process and try to trick themselves almost into something else. And I do think that's how people are so entertaining in a certain way is they are able to trick someone's brain into thinking there's something they're not because in reality the image that you portray to people is almost just a bunch of BS. Like humans are just interested in personalities because it makes them feel good and it's pretty much a brain sensation. It tells your brain, "Hey, time to feel good." And really that's all acting is. That's all performances, all this stuff on the internet and everything. That's all it really is. It's just, "Hey, let me be a person that makes this person feel good somehow." And people try everything. They try every tactic. And I think that is the whole thing about it is tricking yourself. Like working out. If you are a person who can't work out or you don't really like it's not on your agenda, you don't want to adopt it or anything or you just you don't want to work out for whatever reason you don't. or like whatever it is you want to do with your life, you don't do it. But it's like it's almost just like pretty easy. Like you just have this idea of laziness, and that's your stream of consciousness. You almost get locked in a stream of consciousness, and I see a lot of people, they almost get locked in a stream of consciousness. The only way for them to live in a different stream of consciousness is to trick their own conscious mind into doing and thinking something else. But it's kind of crazy to think that you're in a stream of consciousness and you're limited by your stream of consciousness. Like you can only play a video game so well, and someone else plays it better than you, and it doesn't matter how much you practice or what you do, you're probably, you know, people are just better at different things. So, really, to trick yourself into being better than someone else, I don't know. It's kind of weird. But it's kind of weird to think that you could do that because it's probably bullshit. But for me, I've tried to like hypnotize myself and to trick myself into performing well. So, like, getting myself in a frame of mind that maybe doesn't happen so often, or like forcing myself into a particular performance mode where it's just gonna feel good to other people and they're gonna laugh. And that's what comedy is. It's looking at something or observing something or hearing something, audible, visual, whatever, and it's just that feeling that you give. So for me, it's like I have to trick myself into being funny, but I don't think anybody's really funny. I think that your stream of consciousness starts to divide from its originality and almost evolve into, as a result of all your influences. And then you almost have the ability or not to be like, hey, I'm a funny person, but I almost have to like trick myself into believing it or something. Like tricking myself into believing that I love working out when I really don't, but it's almost the last resort for me. But as an actor, for me, I'm not like a Hollywood actor or whatever, but that's not, you don't really have to be a big, like, you don't have to be a billionaire to be a person who's happy with life, or, you know what I mean? Like, people are pretty nuts. Like, they just want the absolute intense success or whatever. I think everyone's kind of like that. But a lot of people have a different lot of perspectives, that make them feel better about themselves and stuff. Like love is more valuable than money. But I don't know. It's a bunch of different crazy stuff. But if you really like, I'm not really trying to get in depth with that, with love and money and all of that. But um, it's kind of crazy to think about that. Maybe people don't do stuff so much as they trick themselves into thinking they need to do it or something. So it's kind of crazy to think about how it's almost like just this big, almost charismatic kind of conversation. Like it's like this conversation that you're having with yourself, and the charisma can convince you to partake in the better half, the better part of yourself, kind of thing. And I think that you can do a lot of different stuff, but really the stress or the anticipation or like all the fuzz around it is usually a lot more than it's worth, and people have different ways of viewing that. Like you might think that something's like you might think hopping on and talking in a video online is really stressful, so you don't do it. Or people might think that it is, so they don't do it, but maybe you're just a person who just posted a video, even though it gets so intense and epic, like, oh my god, look at this person. He's a millionaire from posting videos online. That's so like, wow, that's intense. That's extreme. That's epic. That's cinematic at that point because he just triumphed in the character of his average Joe self into a climatic, cinematic ending of him succeeding. That's what I almost think like happens with people too. Um which is almost a trick in itself because it's just like the way you're thinking of a person, and they're just portraying a almost character in your imagination that's just BS, but it feels nice, and it's almost like a warm, cozy little blanket or something you can throw over yourself, keep yourself safe at night. But yeah, it's kind of like the idea of kind of someone being something or not being something is almost just a big illusion, a big trick, if you really think about it. So, like, whenever you look at a celebrity or you look at someone who uses that, it's like in nature how some animals and stuff they blend into their environment, or they're able to do something to counteract the other natural evolution that you know there's a lot of things in nature that kind of colors and stuff, colors and stuff, like the colors of birds are there's a lot of crazy birds out there and stuff, like you know there's like the moth that has make its wings makes itself look like a snake. I don't know, there's a lot of crazy stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, like, a human being can almost, like, say, to making a music video, say you're an artist who does music, make a music video. It's almost like this thing that you portray to your audience, almost like you're an animal or something. And you spread your butterfly wings and it shows something, but really you're just a butterfly, right? So, or you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're portraying a fake version of yourself, which appears nice, but it's really just an illusion. When you're just a bag of bones, you're just some flesh on a skeleton. That's what you really are. And that's what people really are when it comes down to it. I mean, there's a lot of controversy and conversations and all this drama and all this stuff surrounding so many people and what they are and what they aren't and their status as a human being, and oh my god, people become famous and highly acclaimed, and oh my god, this person, and it's like, dude, that's essentially what it is. Just think of a creature in nature, and it, like, say, like a bear. If you make yourself look big and you make noise, I can't remember exactly the stuff. I should probably know this stuff because if I get attacked by a bear, I'm gonna want to know. But I'm pretty sure it's like you make yourself look bigger and you make loud noises and you kind of and that intimidates it. But really, the bear could just come and rip your throat out. So you're portraying an illusion, and it's kind of mind power. It's like you could rob someone with a gun and there's no bullets in the gun. You could do things to people with a gun with no bullets in it, and as long as they didn't know you if you had bullets in it, you know, like, so I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Just the illusion factor, and that's kind of the whole online environment. It's kind of like you're a creature, and you almost have to evolve in this way to put this almost painting out, this appearance of yourself, and that's like personality art in a sense. Like, that's acting art, really. A lot of that stuff. Because acting is a lot of acting is kind of the art of personality and being able to portray them in different ways. If you think of an artist who paints something, there's a lot of personality in that, but they can create different images, and that's what people do with acting too. It's different images, and it's like painting a picture or something. But a lot of people don't understand it like that. They can't get into it like that. They can't see it like that. But I see it like that. So, I do a lot of different stuff. But it's crazy because even with acting, that's a good example, is basically to do acting and stuff, it's basically tricking your own brain into believing something or thinking something, which is a nice escape from who you actually are, or even just being able to control your thoughts and emotions. It's a very, very powerful skill to be able to do that. So if you can trick yourself into believing or thinking something that isn't real, then that's a very powerful tool. Because if you're sad or you feel depressed or something, you might even have so much power over your emotions that you might not be so vulnerable, but you can make yourself stronger emotionally by being able to train your brain and emotions to think something that's, you know. So that's just an example of tricking your own brain. So, like, acting is pretty much tricking your own brain. It's kind of tricking yourself. Like me trying to trick myself into being funny. I think that's what it kind of is. It's almost an acid trip in itself to just try to be something funny, and then people are laughing, or laughter and the whole thing in itself, the irony and all of that stuff. So it's just kind of interesting to think about, you know, how you could trick yourself to do something, and maybe everything that you thought and everything that you believed maybe wasn't as real as you thought it was, so much as you being able to control it was the most important factor in it. Which is interesting because it, like I said, to be able to control yourself is a very, very powerful thing to master. And it is relevant to everybody and every walk of life and everything we do. So sometimes if things aren't going well, maybe you need to trick yourself. Maybe you need a different experience. Maybe you need to go like do some weird movements and walk on a weird way and go into a different stream of consciousness to where you can kind of wiggle out of your old snake skin. But here's another, I know that's a different conversation of interacting with your subconscious mind and trying to do different stuff with that. But here's one thing I was going to talk about real quick is the idea of experiencing a near death experience in a sort of character and or in a mind state, and then that person that you were before dies and you change. So it's almost like the death happened, but it didn't. But think about that in video games. When you die in a video game, maybe it killed who you were, because everything leading up to that moment, if you died in a video game, it was a mistake because you died, you lost. So maybe you're just living infinite lives. One day you're going to die for real. But you're tricking your brain into thinking you're alive right now, when maybe you're just such a small pea-sized nothing that you were never alive to begin with. So I don't even. That's just the whole thing in a shell. And you know what? I think I'm going to think about something else now. I'm out of here. Have a good one.